Let's now get you the other big international story that's unfolding the last 24 hours, which is what's happening in South Korea. In a stunning political crisis, South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol is now facing an impending impeachment vote after his defense minister offered to resign amidst mounting public outrage. The announcement follows a series of missteps surrounding national security and military readiness that have fueled growing calls for accountability. The defense minister's resignation offer is seen as a desperate move to quell rising tensions after a botched defense strategy to impose martial law on Tuesday exposed the vulnerabilities in the country's response to recent threats from North Korea. Opposition leaders have seized on the scandal, demanding Yoon's removal from office, accusing him of failing to protect the nation and mismanaging military resources. As lawmakers participate in the impeachment vote, South Korea stands at a pivotal moment in its history. Will Yoon be able to weather the storm? Is his presidency now on the brink of collapse? What happens in this political volatility is really set to reshape Seoul's political landscape going forward. All right, let's get in Bill joining us live from Seoul. He's Bureau Chief of Voice of America to give us a sense of how things are unfolding. Appreciate you taking out the time, Bill, to really talk to us about how things are unfolding on ground. It's an unprecedented political situation there. Tell us what's the situation right now?
Well, tonight we've seen pretty large crowds gather at many points throughout the city here in Seoul. However, those crowds, I think, are really only getting started. This has only been going on for 24 hours. About 24 hours ago, from right now, Yoon Suk-yeol declared martial law, really plunging this country into sort of a prolonged, I think, period of uncertainty. The protests are expected to grow, particularly at the weekends. That was the pattern whenever Park Geun-hye, the previous conservative South Korean president, saw mass protests against her. That eventually resulted in her impeachment. As you mentioned, opposition forces have begun the impeachment process. It's not clear whether they have the votes to see that through, but they only need about 9 members of the ruling party to defect. That doesn't seem like it will be so hard to do. And then they would have to get approval from the Constitutional Court, which would uphold that impeachment. If that happens, then we're looking at a completely different South Korea, politically speaking.
And what are the chances of that actually happening, and what could happen next after, if at all the impeachment goes through? What happens next? Tell us, because this is there's a lot of political uncertainty in the country right now.
Yeah, I mean, it seems right now that many analysts feel that Yoon Suk-yeol will not survive this. I think we're very early on. He's very likely to dig in. This is a man who sort of has a reputation for not necessarily listening to all of the advisors and sort of the best advice around him, to be quite blunt. That's sort of what explains, I think, this sort of confusing move in which he declared martial law, in which he was certain to lose. I mean, we don't really understand what the political calculations even were here. He blames sort of anti-state North Korean forces. That's a long-time political attack in South Korea. But it seems perhaps he took these threats seriously and was actually acting on them. If that's the case, then he actually sees this as an existential threat. I think many expect him to sort of dig in. However, again, there's only 9 members of his party which need to defect. In fact, 18 defected last night when they chose to end martial law. So this seems, pretty certain that they will get those votes. The other question then is whether the Constitutional Court will uphold this and say that Yoon Suk-yeol did commit sort of a crime here in declaring martial law. And that is a bit uncertain because the court is seen as leaning towards the conservative side of the aisle.
All right, Gallo joining us live from Seoul to really give us how things are unfolding right now. Appreciate you taking out the time speaking to me on India Global. Let's get in another voice on to really understand what is happening in Seoul and the larger impact of that. Dr. Rahul Raj, Assistant Professor, Center for Korean Studies at JNU, joins me on this. Dr. Raj, how do you see things panning out right now? My colleague, and in fact, Bill was pointing out right now that the president may actually dig in, and that could mean prolonged uncertainty in South Korea going forward?
Good to be here. Actually, yesterday's Yoon's declaration of this martial law was really unprecedented, and it's a legal overreach and miscalculation. Actually, the last martial law was almost in 1980. So, and most of the martial law took place in the military dictatorship. So, since 1987, Korea is a democratic country, free, fair election, and this is very much unprecedented. And a lot of things are there. Today, the opposition parties have presented the bill for the impeachment. And the law says, constitutional law says that within 72 hours, it has to be presented in the parliament also and to be passed. Now, the thing is that out of 300 members, 2/3 members, that is 200 members they need. Now, yesterday, as I was listening, yesterday, of course, 18 members sided to uplift this martial law, and they signed it, and unanimously it was signed, and the martial law president was forced to uplift. However, when today, when the opposition parties and the major opposition party, that is Thaburo Minjudan and Democratic Party, and the minor opposition parties combined together, they presented, and it was only 191, and none of the ruling party signed in the for the impeachment bill. Second thing is that even if it is passed, suppose some members from the ruling party defect, then the question goes, it will go to Constitutional Court. And there are 8 judges. Out of 8, 6, they have to vote for the impeachment. Now, that is also a little bit political because 4 were appointed by the previous president, former president, Moon Jae-in, and 4 by the current Yoon Suk-yeol president. Yes, and now the problem for the Yoon Suk-yeol is that even if it survives, the problem is how he will face the public. Even he has no strong backing in his own.
You've explained the process. Explain the process. Yeah. But I want to ask you, even if he survives, his political capital is going to be completely eroded for the remainder of his term, isn't it?
Yes, for the remainder of his term, and already he is a lame duck president because the ruling party doesn't have majority in the National Assembly. So he was actually very much frustrated the way the opposition parties were almost like becoming a barrier in passing the bills, especially the budget bill. Now, that's what the thing, he will be a problem not only for the party because even the ruling party, yesterday the ruling party leader, he also condemned that it was not acceptable. And how much he will get support from the ruling party, that is also a question mark. Second thing is, even in the public, those who are in favor of leaning toward the Conservative Party, many of them also don't agree with this martial law.
Okay, now this is about the president and his political survival. Talk to us about who could be his possible successor in the event that it's very unlikely that he will survive the night in Seoul today.
Yes. Suppose if everything goes and it goes to Constitutional Court, so it will take 4 to 5 months, then this process will be over. Now, in that period, the current Prime Minister of South Korea, Han Duck-soo, he will become like acting president, and for the remaining period, and we have to see how the things unfold after this constitutional, what the Constitutional Court says. Because earlier also, the opposition party presented a bill for the impeachment of 2 officials to the Constitutional Court, and Constitutional Court rejected it. So we have to see a lot, and it will happen within 24 or to 48 hours, how things unfold. So if he is not surviving, then the Prime Minister will become the acting president.
Prime Minister will become the acting president. Political instability in Seoul may continue for some time, and the present president is unlikely to survive the vote that is underway today. Thank you so much, Dr. Raj, for really connecting the dots here for our viewers in terms of what's happening in South Korea.